Hello and welcome to TKT Visionaries, our monthly roundtable where we bring visionaries together who are leading the industry with the latest technology and services on some of the most amazing things I've ever seen in the industry. Today we have our special guest talking about XR and VR. We have Nick Rivero. He's the co-founder of Meptik, where he leads a team of designers and technicians focused on innovating extended reality and ICVX to create immersive experiences. Meptik has worked with Fortune 100 companies, musical artists, films, and broadcasters to upset reality and create work that captures the imagination and creates new experiences. Along with Nick, we have Justin Wylie. Justin is a technical director at ARC Studios and has over a decade of film industry experience under his belt, both as a cinematographer and producer, and brings a wealth of knowledge to the role as a technical director for Gear 7, Shift Dynamics, and ARC Studios. He oversees the procurement and implementation of cutting-edge cinematography tools and applications that Gear 7 and its partner brands utilize to deliver state-of-the-art results in the video production. And we also have Addy Ghani, who is the VP of Virtual Production at Disguise. Addy is immersed in the studio workflows and industry standards for real-time visualization for film and television. Addy is building a Disguise creator community and strategies that will further the proliferation of virtual production. Prior to joining Disguise, Addy designed and built world-class stages for DreamWorks, Verizon Media, and NBC Universal to help creatives visualize their dreams. He's an unofficial Unreal Engine evangelist and fellow. I'd like to welcome you all to the show today, and thank you for being my guests. We also have with us, I don't know, where did Andre go? Anatoly. There's Anatoly. Anatoly, you'll have to pronounce your last name. I don't want to butcher it.
Anatoly Goronesco.
Goronesco. And you want to tell a little bit about your background real quick?
I was working for Olympic Games, several games like Sochi 2014 and Tokyo Olympics, where I'm heading immersive technologies and licensing between organizing committee, Olympic Broadcast Services, and our supplier. At that time, it was Intel.
All right. Fantastic. So, the first question I like to ask my guests on this topic, and I guess we'll start with you, Addy. What is the difference between XR and VR? You hear those terms utilized a lot. How do you explain to the layman what's the difference between XR and VR?
XR and VP. So XR is extended reality, as we like to call it. VP is virtual production. Generally, those two things can fall under the same umbrella. It could be confusing, but the way we at Disguise differentiate it is XR typically uses mixed reality elements like augmented reality foreground, set extensions, and then, background occlusions, things like that. Whereas VP is strictly for a technique called in-camera visual effects. So it's the art of eliminating green screen and adding in a real-time environment. So VP is generally reserved for film, TV, scripted content, whereas XR is for live events, musical concerts, and really more spectacular real-time events.
All right, fantastic. Justin, anything to add to that? Do you see it a little bit different in your world?
No, not at all. I feel like we're just getting to the point in the industry where terms are kind of landing and we're all like, okay, yeah, we're going to call all this, and we're going to call this. And it's kind of been helpful as we've all just been kind of figuring all this out over the last couple of years, say like, okay, so it's most helpful to call this, so that we understand that this thing is this. So, and it's all the same tools. We're using a lot of the same tools to do this and to power all these different events or filmmaking tools, but it's kind of, using them slightly different in slightly different scenarios, depending on what the end product is.
All right. And Nick, I noticed in your bio they had upset reality. Is that a new term that we have to be worried about here?
No, what we say is that all of this new technology is this spectrum of reality is now virtual production, XR, AR, VR, all of the R's we kind of call it is about reality. It's about blending the world we used to know of physical experiences with this new ability to create new realities. And so we kind of say our goal is to upset that reality and find new ways to tell new stories with new innovative tools.
All right. And Anatoly, anything to add to that? I mean, from I guess a European or the other side of the world, do you guys separate out XR VR in the same way?
Yeah, definitely we do. I would like to add the concept of new media, and these two words describing way more than this, let's say, words like XR, VR, AR. It's probably difficult to understand to a wide audience all around the world because they're confusing in between the terms. And let's say new media might be the next word to describe what we're talking about. And I would like to add very important concept that regular broadcast is migrating and maybe evolve to a new media where internet and interaction like a conferences. This is new language to communicate to your audience. It's all about interactive experience when you can touch some objects, whether they virtual or the mixed reality or whatever. But these interactions are very useful and can describe way more. And we're working on Web3 concept when you don't need to install any additional applications and so work in browser with one click, which lowering the entry level for lots of people to try. Otherwise, we need lots of adjustments and so on. That's my, let's say, ideas.
Okay. Perfect. Nick, so when somebody like Justin comes to you and says, you know, we want our customer comes, we want to build, what is sort of the craziest or the misconception that people who want to produce XR VR have when it comes to, say, the technology or the staging and the things that you're faced with trying to solve?
Yeah, I think if I'd say there's any misconception, it's just about understanding the process. It's so new how it works, understanding the workflow. And the reason I say kind of misconception in that is because there's so much creative potential. And if you don't really understand some of the tools and what's possible, it's hard to really know how to maximize that potential. And I think it's just about that learning process right now of being educated, educating yourself with what does the technology let me do? Because at the end of the day, the technology is really allowing you to be more creative. And I think that's the thing is you want to understand how those two can work hand in hand with each other. And so I think if I say there's a misconception, it's just about knowing and learning this new technology. And you don't need to know all of it, but I think it's just learning pieces of it to help inform how you tell a better story.
Okay. And Justin, you know, from that perspective, what technology do you think, I don't want to say is missing necessarily, but what you'd like to see added? You've been involved in creating these types of productions, and if there's just this one piece, or if it did it just this a little bit better, I could do more. What is that piece? I'm sure there's a giant list like all of us, but is there something you can sort of narrow that down?
I think there's, as we're exploring a lot of these new tools that we have, or at least new ways of doing old things, that, you know, we're kind of trying a lot of these new things saying, okay, well, this is incredible, but once we kind of get this part figured out, like color pipeline workflows to where everything is just super clean. The image that you see like on your laptop when you're creating a scene in Unreal matches what the camera should see at the end of the pipeline, that those things get more, as we get those things more ironed out, the tools are just going to be even easier to use. So it's still, you know, in a lot of ways, like in the R&D phase in a lot of these tools. And so as we're kind of stress testing them and figuring out, be like, okay, that got us like 99% there. What's the last bit? You know, I think there's a lot of realms where it's just going to get easier and easier to do these things. And so that from a creative filmmaker point of view, it gets even easier for me to be like, well, if I'm writing a story, it's easy to say, well, I can set it on top of a mountain somewhere, even though I might not have the budget to send a crew up the side of a mountain.
All right, and Addy, maybe to help the people understand, you know, what does Disguise do? What does the company do? And then how do you fulfill the needs for people like Justin who are building these productions or other companies?
Absolutely. So at Disguise, we make a technology that powers all of the virtual production or XR stages around the world that we support. we make these incredibly high performance servers, and we make a very custom software that runs on those servers. We then make the tech integrations like plugins that work with pretty much any major technology players in this space. So at Disguise, we not only make the technology, but we also help train you on that technology. We support you throughout that process. And now with Meptik, we're able to offer you a service to build stages, or perhaps build the content that you're going to need after you build that stage. So we do it all in a nutshell.
So, Anatoly, you obviously have done a lot of this, and I'm assuming sort of sports related and where things are going. Where do you see the technology sort of driving the type of work that you do, especially in Europe?
I see great potential around artificial intelligence production based on AI directing both, and we will replace cameramans in totally with AI machine vision tools, which allow you to use panoramic cameras. And in the same time, you have AI director who can pan and tilt the image inside the panorama. And we operating the concept of points of presence on the event. So you can distribute some mini cams for virtual reality with full spherical image. And then you can create the virtual twin of the venue in the mixed reality. For example, to create the 3D scenes with these points of presence, like spots where you can send your customers to see the content from particular spots without any, let's say, general director or somebody who deciding what's interesting, what's not. You just got the feeling of the full-fledged presence at the event, like behind the goals, in the changing rooms, or arrival of the teams, and any kind of stories like that, emotions.
Thank
and
you.
body language.
Oh, I like your background there.
You got a little talk over there, but go ahead.
If you allow me to share my screen, I can show you what I'm talking about, because I have the setup next to me right here in the office. And if you would like to see how it works, I can.
Sure, I have to see if Edward or Victor can make sure that Anatoly has the ability to share his screen. We can do that.
Yeah, I think I can.
Yep.
So here, how it works. We're just joining the room, and in the same time, I am in the telepresence from our 4K live streaming, and working in the browser. Right now, I'm connected from my laptop from Apple, but this time you can use this link in VR glasses, and our custom player allow you to open these contents just with a link like this. And one link fits all the devices and have a cross-platform realization. And our idea is to distribute cameras like that all around the venue, maybe in multiple venues in multiple countries, and we can offer our customers an outstanding experience when they can be in the real time with zero latency. When, for example, I can hear from the speakers some clients who are connected to the real time, and in the same time, we have a possibility for distribution over CDM networks. We can deliver higher resolution, for example, 8K with full video rendering to save some bandwidth, because this is a tiny point of the whole VR, because the content is heavy and we need very good internet connection on the client side and a powerful device for rendering on the client side. So
interesting. So yeah. let's talk a little bit about that technology pipeline. So Nick, What things does somebody need? So I know you've got a camera. So what are sort of the cameras that are being? I'm a red shooter. I know a lot of people like using the Komodo because it's got a global shutter. Are there certain cameras that you see being adopted more often? And then of course the next thing you have from a camera perspective is I got to tell where the camera is in the space. So can you talk about those two sort of components?
Yeah, what I always say is the technology pipeline is really kind of 5 core pieces. The core pieces of this kind of future world, I think, are 1 LED, 2 engine compute power, 3 cameras, 4 is some of the periphery technologies in there, and then 5 is creative and content. And in terms of cameras, you definitely see streamlining. You see a lot of like the Arri family, the Red family, the Sony Venices. You see quite a bit of kind of more and more standardization around those in the workflow and in the world, I would say, for the most part. But anything's really possible within that toolkit. But you definitely see, like, the most popular is probably the Mini LF right now in the market.
Okay. And Addy, so, with Disguise, from my understanding, you're a little agnostic in terms of some of the components because you're really that glue that holds it together. What are sort of the two or three main manufacturers around that I don't know what you would call it technically, but so you know where the camera is in space. It's your camera tracking. I know Moses and Stipe. Yeah. Camera tracking. What are the main manufacturers and the different types of technologies that are used around that component?
Sure. So there's basically 2 different families of camera tracking technology. There's outside-in tracking and inside-out tracking. Outside-in uses fixed cameras around your stage to then track a moving object. And inside-out is the quite opposite. So you have a camera mounted on the camera system that is looking up at fixed markers. For the outside in, the common motion capture world optical systems like Vicon and OptiTrack, that's very common. Because they are able to track human bodies, they can definitely track a camera much easily. On the other side of it, you have NCAM, Stipe are the 2 big, technologies in this space, and of course you have Moses. So Disguise supports all of them. And if there is, we even go as far as to support HTC Vives and things that are maybe on the consumer level.
Okay. So I did see recently a post, AI is the big thing that everybody's talking about. And I saw recently a company talking about being able to replace mocap suits with AI. Do you see AI coming into that camera tracking world more, or is it still too complex?
No, I think at some point AI systems will be able to track cameras. So the system that you are talking about is Move AI, which is a technology we just integrated with Disguise, and we actually announced it at NAB. So that's the ability to have anybody on set on an LED volume be tracked without the traditional markers and the suits and the cameras that mocap systems have.
Okay, and Justin, so you hear the term Unreal Engine. I believe there's another system for generating backgrounds as well. When you're doing a production, is there one that you prefer over the other? One gives you more realism, more capabilities. How do you go about planning, a development for doing a production in terms of what's going to drive that background?
I think it's all about use case and figuring out what the scope of the project is. Unreal is incredibly capable and incredibly complex. You can use it to generate full 3D environments. You can use it to do more 2D based, like renders and outputs. A lot of times we'll kind of stage things into a few different categories. One will just be like 2D plates. So either video playback or still photo up there. That's just the background you want to use. It could be as simple as taking a photo of your backyard and putting it up there and using it. All the way to fully customized 3D environments like you would create for a video game that we'll be able to move the camera around in and customize on set any way we need to. We're finding a lot of that work is happening in Unreal. One of the other tools is Unity. It's another system that's used to create video games. And so you can create these highly detailed but also efficient environments and sets that you can build to shoot in, the same way a traditional carpentry team would build a set in a studio. You just have kind of infinite flexibility if you have the time to build it, which is kind of what makes a lot of this so great. But we have loads of clients and loads of projects that we work on where we're like, well, we don't really need all of that. We really just need a background plate of a kitchen or this, and we can find different ways to use either a video plate or even still images to achieve the same goal.
Okay. And Anatoly, are you finding sort of the same thing in the work that you're doing in terms of how do you predict or project what type of driving force, whether it's Unreal or I think it's Unity, is that the other one that drives that background? Are you seeing that in the European market as well?
Certainly, yes. And we see that Unreal Engine is more about video realistic rendering. They focused on meta-humans. They would like to create artificial people, right? And this technology is really mind-blowing in terms of working with NVIDIA together. And Unity is more like entry level, which is easier to start. And we are more, let's say, thinking about mixed reality in the concept of web browsing. And I do believe in the pixel streaming which Unreal Engine is offering right now. And we're waiting for major update from Google. This May, we will see very, let's say, important milestone about support web GPU rendering, which allow you to create 3D scenes in a browser. This will be like 10 times more power if compared to the current solutions. And we can create way more immersive experiences. And if we look back to the meta, we'll see they enforce a new division. They stopped talking about metaverse. They started to talk about immersive games. And in these things, we do believe that web browsing, Web3 technology with NFT, crypto, and combining 3D worlds together, this kind of metaverses created in the browsing versions, this will be a big future. And I got a small question. Can I add some screen sharing about our experience with AI and with points of presence? Philip, what do you think?
Yeah, we'll do that in a second. Well, one of the things, it actually brings up a good point. I wanted to see, and I don't hate to put everybody on the spot, but if you guys have any photos or pictures of your work that you might want to be able to pop up on the screen and demonstrate, we'd love to hear more about any specific projects. I don't know if Justin, if you have anything available, or Nick. I know it's sort of last minute, but hey, that's what the show's all about, right?
Yeah. I can try to pull up something. I don't have anything offhand, but I mean, Justin and I have collaborated on quite a few projects, both as individuals and companies across the spectrum of virtual production. I mean, we've shot everything from TV commercials to music videos and in between, kind of putting all the pieces together. I think some of the, one of the more fun projects we were talking about this morning is we shot country music star in a commercial, and we effectively had to reproduce the effect that he was performing a concert on top of a New York rooftop kind of apartment thing, but we did it in Nashville in the middle of the afternoon, right? And that was a really great kind of use case of just what this technology allows is we could bend to the artist's schedule and time. We could shoot a varying time of day when we needed to, and we could do it in a better location for that artist in Nashville instead of New York City. And it was a really great project that went off pretty flawlessly for us.
Do you see, last year NAB, our first time back after the pandemic, everybody's booth had a screen, whether they're doing VR, XR, they had to demonstrate it. This year it wasn't quite as big. The people who do the work did that. Are you finding more and more, it used to be big Hollywood, productions. Are you finding more corporate customers now or smaller customers sort of building out their own environments? Is it still too complicated? Where do you see things going? Well, this to Nick.
Yeah, I think the thing is the technology is expanding its use case. The past 3 years, we've really seen the big use cases in episodic film, the motion picture world really adopting it. And now we're seeing it being used by everyone, so we're seeing corporate adoption, broadcast television, brands, kind of everyone across it is starting to see what the creative potential is and being able to apply it to use cases that aren't shooting a movie, right? So we've put these facilities into the 21st floor of a corporate office now, and they use it to help them narrate their company messages better, not just shoot film. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the next, not even 5 years, but really the next 2 years ahead.
Addy, you're seeing that as Disguise is building out its software to, integrate and simplify the process. Are you seeing more corporate customers coming on board or asking for systems?
Yeah, 100%. We actually just introduced a product, server that is specifically geared for this market called the EX3. So it's priced to sort of be much more affordable, and you still get the same benefits of Disguise that comes from, feature film or high-end broadcast, but now we're just bringing that reliability right into a corporate install.
Okay. And Anatoly, are you doing more corporate? Do you see more corporate, or is it still sort of larger productions in Europe?
Yeah, I think so. We see the interest coming from each side, starting from B2C clients who are bloggers and influencers who are interested in a new language to talk to the audience. And at the same time, I'm totally agree about brands searching for new methods of the communications. And I think, let's say, corporate clients here more, let's say, looking backwards, and small companies are more flexible to implement some innovations.
What do you, I'll throw this out sort of to Nick and to Justin. What do you think is holding back, whether it's technology or the creative, for smaller customers? I don't want to necessarily say the mom and pops, but the smaller customers getting into this, and utilizing XR and VR. We'll go with Justin first.
I think I think as the technology gets a lot better, it's becoming way more accessible to a lot of people. Like, there's a level which you can, do a lot of this, like even on your phone with your TV, like putting up content on your TV and filming it on your phone, like as simple as that, up to utilizing some green screens and compositing on your laptop with Unreal Engine. Like, there's a lot of very, very simple, accessible ways to do it. Now, I'm loving seeing a lot of YouTubers like, just let me get in and figure this out. Can I actually pull this off? Which is really cool. Up until like a lot of the clients we have will be like, hey, I have this really cool idea for a music video. I don't have $100,000. Is there a way that we can maybe figure out a way to make this work, or try a new thing and find some way on the production side to, like, well, this could be a super compelling use case. We can test out this new idea or piece of gear. Like, finding different ways to try new ideas and new things has been like, that's been really valuable for us, and to try to find ways to also educate a lot of people on how this whole thing works, how it's different than traditional production, but also in a lot of ways how it's not. And so the more educated people we get, the more we're like, okay, that doesn't seem like this big, scary technological hurdle that's just going to end up being a nightmare. Let's just go shoot it out in a field. So like finding ways to kind of help people understand the tech, how it works, and that it isn't only a like Star Wars, Star Trek type of thing, but it is something that is accessible to way more people than they think.
Same question to you, Nick. You happen to be here in Atlanta, where I live as well. Do we start to see some smaller corporate customers coming on board, smaller organizations? What do you think is sort of that barrier to entry for them, or is there a barrier to entry for them?
Yeah, I think the barrier to entry is predominantly around, I would say, price. Is the technology does have a cost to it. This new wave, new technology always usually has a higher cost to it, and that always typically decreases over time. I think we're just at that front running point. But what happened, I think, is COVID has expedited that adoption so quickly. So a lot of people saturated the market very quickly with it. And now we're kind of trying to catch up to normalization of cost, rates, adoption, availability, kind of all of those sides of things. But it's definitely, and we're definitely seeing new adoptions and new points in corporate, especially wanting to do this. And I think the way they're doing this, exactly what Justin's saying, is they're finding either alternative approaches or they're finding scaled down approaches, right? Saying, hey, instead of this thing being 30 meters, maybe it'll be 3 meters, you know, in terms of what we're doing. And you're seeing those kind of things allowing people to get into it at an effective, not only scale, but price point.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Anatoly, I think you have some samples that you wanted to be able to show and maybe talk a little bit about what your customers have done or what you've done for your customers.
Yeah, I think it will be really useful to see what we have done previously. Give me a second. Let me check if I'm able to show you the share screen. Okay, here we go. So we did this use case for NHL in Pittsburgh last year in May. So here's the Pittsburgh Paints Arena, and this is just a 360 photo for home screen. And in the same time, we have a menu button, and the whole thing works just in the browser on the web page. And we can teleport in between different locations. This is the first one. So this is point number 1 at the media deck on the 7th floor. And if we would like to teleport to spot number 2, we're just teleporting with our vision. Like when we're using VR headset, we have a pointer. So it's more than enough just to see at the red spot right here. And we making this production totally remotely. We can zoom in and zoom out. This is spherical. And we can teleport to the VIP arena right here.
Interesting, interesting. That sort of brings up a question for Addy. With the VR and XR studios, are you seeing more adoption or more push for the 3D VR, things that support VR headsets, productions that support the VR headsets?
Yeah, so I come from the VR AR world. My last job lead and specifically with Verizon's 5G network. And now coming into the world of virtual production and XR, I will definitely have to say that those two things are now two different things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not seeing stereoscopic use of VR stages, VP stages at the moment.
Is there a big? I would imagine there's a technical challenge. I think it's called the frustrum, where you have the clear image. To try to do that in the VR type world, it would require, I guess, the entire stage almost to be a frustrum.
Yeah, you would need to essentially render 2 cameras at the same time with the correct interocular distance, and you would have to use technology like Ghost Frame, for example, to capture 2 perspectives at the same time. It is possible, and I'm sure somebody is doing it, but it's not something that's mainstream.
Okay. And Anatoly, you're showing this. I think that was the UFC. Are you finding in
EFC at Miami Saitama Stadium for Fight Championship? We did it recently in last March in Miami, and I would like to add something about 3D stereoscopic image. As per my experience, like 95% of people have this. And that's why we're focused on monoscopic 360 image, because this fashion for 3D 180 is designed especially for VR goggles. And most of the people I met in US recently last year, I was traveling like a lot. So they have this amount of dust on their Oculuses because it's too complicated to maintain the Oculus for average person. I mean, constantly updates, something to register, and virtual keyboard. So lots of actions when regular person can take over these adjustments. And that's why We focused on web browser, on monoscopic 360 image, when you can pan and tilt, and you can zoom in and zoom out. I was just showing you NHL and fighting case, and I would like to show you another one, which is all about artificial intelligence. Just really quickly, we'll try to show you what I. Okay, here we go. Our camera replacing cameraman. So what we actually doing, our algorithm allow us to watch the game without watching the puck. So basically, we are reading the context of the game and analyzing the players like skeletons. We can predict where games is going, and our product is 2D screen on the top. So the end user never ever use VR because we utilizingly using the panoramic image just for AI production. Maybe this thing is useful.
Interesting. So that brings up an interesting question. I guess it's I'll say it's the 800-pound gorilla. Maybe not necessarily in the room, but we've all heard of Apple producing some type of augmented or virtual reality goggle glasses. Do you see that impacting or driving anything that you may be doing, Justin, in the future if all of a sudden everybody's got AR, VR glasses?
I think one of the most compelling use cases, like as a filmmakers, and we can even do this now with headsets, is in pre-production and planning. We can do remote, like we would go on a location scout for a location. We say like, oh, I found this great field. We're going to go do a shoot. Everyone would pile in a van. We'd all go there together. Now we can scout locations that are built in Unreal in a headset. I could be at Nashville. Nick could be in Atlanta. Addy could be in LA, and we could all jump on the same session, put our headsets on, walk around the same environment. We could point out, hey, let's get rid of this tree. I want to change this to this. And we can collaborate in real time on the same environment from around the world. And I think that type of use case for us as filmmakers is going to get even easier. That as those tools get easier and less cumbersome, as we have either glasses or whatever, however crazy that technology gets on the consumer side, us as filmmakers and, entertainment professionals are just going to look for ways to say, like, can this make my job easier? Can this take away work that I would normally take me a whole day to do, or I have to like wait for a call with 3 people, and we could just kind of collaborate in real time with some of those tools. That to me gets super exciting, and different ways that we can utilize those.
Interesting. And Addy, being the I guess in your bio, unofficial evangelist for Unreal, do you see, I haven't played with it. It's on my list of a million other technologies that I want to dive into. And, I come from an architectural engineering background, so I keep thinking, oh man, I could use this we're going to build our retirement house. I'm going to construct it in Unreal in the environment so I can show my wife what it's going to look like. But do you see the adoption, I would assume with Apple getting behind it, if it does come to fruition, that adoption of those XR, VR, AR headsets, pushing Unreal to the next level. I think they just had a recent release that actually had some additional capabilities. Do you think that'll keep driving that product?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the headset is a piece of hardware. You're going to need content to then push that hardware. So where is all that content going to come from? That's going to come from real-time game engines. So Unreal is, still a very small community of creators and artists. And I think something like that will help push that community to a bigger scale. So we're going to see more and more creatives and, people that can enable the visualization happen come into fruition with the advent of.
And maybe you can clarify something for me on the Unreal side and maybe for the audience in general. Are things constructed in Unreal from scratch, or do you bring in models? So does somebody have to construct a tree to go in the environment? How does Unreal interact with, say, the other 3D applications that are out there?
Yeah, both. So for the highest end of applications for VFX, for high-end feature films, I would say nothing in Unreal is built in Unreal. It's all imported. But for, a VR application or a consumer application, you can certainly grab a lot of the assets from the Epic Games marketplace, from Quixel, Megascans, or even TurboSquid. So there's online asset marketplaces out there that you can just buy and then drop into your Unreal scene.
Yeah. So we have a question from Ammar Hina, who did a big sports project in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Wonder if you could, talk a little bit about your XR VR experience, if he's been brought in.
Hello, good
There's
evening.
Ammar. Hi. Yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about your experience with the XR and the VR.
Yeah, to be honest, I had couple of couple of projects we did with VR XR.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, linking to the sports, I don't think so, because you were discussing a couple of points. I just joined, to be honest.
Yep.
Regarding the hardware part, I don't think so. This is something we'd work with the sports field.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go for the broadcasting field and the production field, I think the future may be more for virtual elements, virtual productions mixed with VR, XR stuff, mostly augmented reality elements, I believe. The integration between the data stats with the output, the TV output might be something interesting, I believe. Couple of other areas I think we should maybe on a future think much about it is such like the special cameras. There are a couple of companies using new elements XR or sub. It's a little bit hard to go between VR and AR and XR stuff, but the mix between the special cameras with augmented reality elements, I believe this is something nice to see. It gives like better flavor on the output somehow. We did a couple of projects with a couple of companies mixing the augmented reality elements with special cameras, such like drones, such like sky cams. I'm not going to mention such like moving cameras, and it went very well. I believe this is something interesting to see more.
Oh, excellent. Well, I appreciate the input. Addy, so when HDR first came out, everybody overused it. Drones came out, everybody overused it. Do you see that potential in X? I haven't seen it personally yet, maybe some lower budget films, but do you think that's a potential where people will push it beyond what it's really designed to do or to help with?
I mean, the technology that we're talking about, large LED volumes, are just expensive. So we probably have gone past that phase already in the last 2 years. And now, the business cases that make sense, they're still here and they're making incredible content. And the ones that sort of just came and went, they're behind us.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, every once in a while I'll see a film and I'm like, is that on a set? Is that real? Did they push it too far? But I'm glad to hear that maybe we've gone past that quickly. That's definitely a good thing. Nick, in your business, are you seeing sort of that same area where people may be pushing it too far or trying to do too much or asking for it to do too much, asking you guys, hey, can it do X, Y, and Z? And then you sort of slap them and say, no, it can't do that.
Yeah, I think we see this all the time is everyone's trying to push this new technology to do everything. And the thing I always respond with is that it doesn't solve every problem, but it can solve some problems really well. And it's just like anything else in our technology arsenal is that they're all tools. And the tools might be very large and be very complex, but it's still just one tool in the creative arsenal that allows us to tell a better story. And it doesn't, like I said, work for every scene, for every shot, for every company, production, but it does for a lot of people. And I think it's about understanding that fit.
Yeah. Justin, in your world, you're the one who pushes it too far. Not you personally, obviously, right? You're gonna keep it real there, as they say. But do one of the things I know in looking at some spaces early on, it was the whole I have the sky, I have the floor. Is it really trying to do that full immersive environment with everything, or does it make sense to have the practicals in there, to have some set pieces so that you have the air of reality? You have something there. Are you finding people sort of doing that more than just trying to do it all in the virtual world?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Like the best use cases, like I mean, right out of the gate, and it makes sense if you have a TV show with a guy in like a full chrome suit that you have reflections all the way around, and there's definitely some benefits there. But I think when everybody was like, well, it's probably not best for every scenario that we only light with LED panels, that we want to use traditional lights. We want to shape that light. As a cinematographer, I'm like, I want to create an image that points the audience to what I want them to see, to hear the story that we're trying to tell. And so it's about shaping that image and finding the best way to do it. And like saying that, like where we're at right now, LED panels don't reproduce great light on skin tones. And so having great lights to really help skin tones, and the LED panels do what they do really, really well, until those things kind of slowly over time become the same thing. And so there's this middle ground and this balancing act to say, like you said, like what problem does it solve really, really well? Let's kind of get it in its lane and do that really, really well. And let's still use the other tools in our toolbox to do other things really, really well. So if we can do all those things and bring them together to kind of tell a good story, like we're using the tools for what they should be used for, and not just say like, well, just because I can do all these things doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. And a lot of times that just ends up being more expensive and more stressful instead of saying like, what's the right thing to use at the right time.
Right. So we're getting close to the top of the hour. So I wanted to sort of go around the table real quick. We'll start with Addy. What are you guys working on? What do you think's the next big thing? What should we be looking out for from Disguise?
For us, it's all about building the entire ecosystem. So the next big thing for us is an overarching cloud infrastructure that manages all of your content, 3D, 2D, version controls it. And so asset management is just easier overall.
Fantastic. And Anatoly, what's big on your horizon? What's next for you guys?
We're thinking about, let's say, 10 to 15 years horizon. And we're coming to a completely new world when people are living in entertaining economy, and the most valuable currency is the time. And we're creating time-based tokenizing system to create a reputation ratio in between the duration and the actual duration of watching the contents. And we do believe that content created by unprofessional users, let's say user-generated content, is the next big thing, because the phenomena with two bloggers on the seats with the iPhone can create way more attention than the regular OB-WAN team with like regular broadcast network. And we see that ads and the budgets are migrating to personalities, and it's all about next big thing about metaverse. And that's why we focused on our system of telepresence, which allow you to experience VR in a zero latency, which is actually teleportation. And this is my, let's say, small ideas about digitalizing the real world in a cinematic quality in the real time. We're working about that and tokenizing time.
Oh, fantastic. And I see we have Mohammad has joined us. Real quick, Mohammad, I want you, if you want to talk about some of the things you've done, and then what's big in your world? What do you see as the next big thing that's going to be out there for the XR VR world?
Thank you so much. So I'm just enjoying hearing opinion of our friends and experts. So sorry, I was in another meeting, so I joined very late. So very quickly, we are engaged in XR and AR part, as you may know, and we are doing immersive experience and also virtual overlay for the industry. So our main target right now is for personalizing the feeds and personalizing the content for the fans in real time. And I believe with power of AR, XR, and obviously based on AI and machine learning, it is something that we can achieve, and somehow we achieved right now. Just it needs more commercial part to be available for the fans in the industry and for the right holders. So I'm enjoying and hearing other friends' opinions. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Ammar, to you, what do you see? What's big in your horizon? What do you think's coming down the pipe, and what are you working on?
To be honest, is it's a mix of things, because as I'm focusing more on the sports side, and it is limited with the time of the game itself. So it's a little bit hard sometimes with the main sports. I'm not going to mention any sports in specific, but some sports it's so hard to deal with. To keep the output entertaining at the same time, to have more commercial.
Cricket, you can say it. Cricket,
Yeah, yeah.
cricket lasts like five days, right?
Cricket is the easiest from the time side, so this is fine.
Yeah.
Cricket is it's a pool of innovation, I believe, because of having enough time all the time to invest in it, you know. But if you're going to football as an example, with having lack of time, having 90 minutes, you have to involve the max you can do, making it more entertainment, adding extra elements all the time, utilizing the data and stats all the time at the same time, building more commercial assets. As Mohammed just mentioned, the commercial assets within the game itself, it's something important to maintain the business all the time, you know. So I believe, as our colleague mentioned, involving the fans, I believe this is the future. But how to involve them while not affecting the sport, this is something might be challenging. At the same time, it's how to make it more accessible. So
right.
I believe having more output related to mobile phones, maybe the new platforms that might show up anytime, we should be ready to have special output for it.
Perfect. And as we're rounding third, we'll go to Justin. What do you have going on? What should people be looking for, and what big things in the industry you think are coming down the pipe over the next 12 to 18 months?
I really think just moving forward, like we're hitting our stride with a lot of these tools that we're starting to see, you know, not just like films and TV shows that are utilizing these tools to like make cool images and stuff, but we're able to be more efficient and tell more stories from more perspectives, that we're able to produce more things, because everybody, you know, the world's still very content hungry. Everybody wants the new thing to watch and stuff to do. And so I think it's, you know, we're excited to be able to kind of provide that, but also have the tool set to do it in like a humane way for ourselves, to where we're able to like keep it fun and keep it exciting, and like keep the joy of storytelling in our hearts, to where we can kind of make things that matter. But it's almost like barriers are getting out of the way. Like the technology is helping remove barriers from creating content.
All right, fantastic. And we're gonna finish it up with Nick, and I got to thank Nick and his team who helped me set this up and reach out to the creators, to Addy and to Justin as well. So Nick, what do you guys have going on? You know, feel free to pitch Meptik as well, and what tech do you see is sort of driving us over the next 12 to 18 months?
Specifically on the technology side, I think new advancements like Move.ai, markerless AI-based technologies, we're going to see more of that. But I think really on top of that, we're going to see standardization. We're kind of coming off of the crest of just everything being new, and now we're trying to figure out how do we actually make this long-term sustainable, and what do those processes and industry practices look like so that there's large adoption. So for us, we're just aiding to help do that and understand that and put those pieces together over the next few months.
Oh, fantastic. Well, first, let me thank everybody for being a part of this. This is our second Visionaries. We're really moving this forward. Can't thank you enough for the insight. I'm sure that our audiences learned a lot. I learned a lot personally. And I'd like to thank everybody again for taking the time out on a Wednesday, and look forward to everybody joining us next month, where we're going to be talking about AI, I believe. So everybody, thanks again, and have a good evening.